Today, we explore the darker side of human nature. We're diving into the twisted case of Leonard Lake and Charles Ng, two serial killers who terrorized California in the 1980s. Their crimes were so heinous, so depraved, that they will leave you speechless. Leonard Lake was born in San Francisco in 1945. His parents separated when he was young, and he was sent to live with his grandparents. He developed an obsession with pornography and killing animals at an early age. Charles Ng was born in Hong Kong in 1960. His father was strict and physically abusive. Charles developed an obsession with martial arts and fire, and had a lifelong addiction to stealing. Leonard and Charlie met in the early 1980s and began committing crimes together. Miranda is the name they gave all women, which ought to be sign number one of their value in Charlie and Leonard's eyes. They would select a Miranda and take her. Once they were done with the friends or family who came with the woman, Charlie and Leonard will then torture and rape the Mirandas for days before ultimately killing them. One of their victims was the family of Harley Dubs, his wife Deborah, and their 18-month-old son Sean. Besides murdering them, they stole money from their bank accounts, which they did repeatedly with their victims. It was an easy way to get money and satisfy their killer instinct at the same time. The family's remains were never found. Lonnie Bond Sr., Brenda O'Connor, and Lonnie Bond Jr. were the neighbors of the bunker. One night, Brenda managed to see Leonard and Charlie transporting what was clearly a human body on a cart. But she didn't call the police because her husband had a meth lab in the house. They tried to rob Lonnie and a friend inside their home, but something went wrong, and they ended up killing them, along with the baby who Charlie killed with a hammer later. They kidnapped Brenda, and she became another victim along with the future son she was pregnant with, as she confessed, but it didn't save her life. They targeted families, torturing, killing them, and stealing their identities. They also abducted and raped young girls, forcing them to comply with their twisted desires. They would torture their victims for days, forcing them to follow rules like, "I must always be ready to serve my master," and "I must always be quiet when I'm in my cell." In 1985, Leonard was arrested after a botched robbery attempt. Leonard swallowed a pill and later died, but Charles escaped and fled to Canada. The arresting officer noticed that Lake had no resemblance to the photo on his California driver's license, which had the name of Robin Scott Stapley, a San Diego man reported missing by his family several weeks earlier. The Honda was registered to Paul Costner, who disappeared from San Francisco on November 2nd, 1984, after leaving his apartment to show the car to someone interested in purchasing it. The car's license plate was registered to yet another missing person, Lonnie Bond of Wilseyville. The gun was registered to Stapley. Upon further examination of the Honda, Investigators found a bullet in the car's roof, along with blood spatter, a stun gun, and several unspent bullets. Under the passenger seat, a utility bill was found in the name of Leonard's ex-wife with a Wilseyville address. On June 4th, San Francisco police detectives and Calaveras County Sheriff's investigators searched the Wilseyville cabin with Crickett's permission. Next to the driveway stood a cinder block bunker that Leonard had constructed. In one of the bedrooms, they discovered video equipment belonging to the Harvey Dubs, who had vanished from his San Francisco apartment along with his wife Deborah and their infant son Sean in July 1984. Investigators also found vehicle belongings to Bond and Stapley parked on the property. Bond had rented a house just 50 yards from Leonard's cabin with his girlfriend Brenda O'Connor and their infant son. Stapley, a friend of Bond's, had also been staying at the house. Detectives found the house empty and the rent unpaid for several months. Posted on a wall was a list of typewritten rules for female captives to follow, along with pictures of 21 women, some of them nude, behind one wall. Through a hidden door was a tiny windowless cell with a small mattress and a bucket that many have been used as a toilet. Investigators believe that women had been held in the cell as Leonard's prisoners. They also found a hand-drawn treasure map leading them to two buried 5-gallon buckets. One contained envelopes with names and victims' identifications, suggesting that the total number of victims might have been as high as 25. In the other bucket were Leonard's handwritten journals for the years of 1983 and 1984, and two videotapes documenting the torture of two of their victims. One of the tapes, labeled M Ladies, Charles is seen telling victim Brenda O'Connor as he cuts her shirt off with a knife, "You can cry and stuff like the rest of them, but it won't do any good. We are pretty cold-hearted, so to speak." In another part of the tape, Kathy Allen is seen seated in a chair with Leonard warning her, "If you don't go along with us, we'll probably take you in the bed, tie you down, rape you, shoot you, and bury you." In the other, Deborah Dubs is shown being assaulted so severely that she could not have survived. How could there be so much evil in these two men? So much selfishness, but also so much ignorance. Charles was eventually extradited to the United States from Canada after being arrested trying to steal a salmon from a grocery store and put on trial for murder of the officer. He was found guilty and sentenced to death. He is currently on death row. It's said that the state of California has spent over $20 million on Charles' case. The crimes of Leonard Lake and Charles Ng left a trail of devastation in their wake. Families were torn apart and lives were destroyed. Their case serves as a reminder of the horrors that humanity is capable of. It's a reminder that we must always be vigilant and fight against evil in all its forms. Leonard and Charles' crimes were documented in videos they made themselves. The videos shown the torture and rape of their victims and are a chilling reminder of the depravity of those two men. Their bunker, where they held their victims captive, was a symbol of their twisted desires. It was a place where they could control and dominate their victims and carry out their sick fantasies.